Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to Flux Family Channel. My name is Daniel Arroyo. I'm gonna be touching base a little bit about body development, body mechanics, the who, what, why, where, and how of kind of everything that having to do with the origin of what you do, and how it translates to the development of being able to adapt to all disciplines. Since I come from a parkour background, I'm kind of gonna be approaching it from that standpoint, as well as keeping in mind last episode 1 of longevity and kind of just touching base along the way. So let's jump into this. Okay, so most athletes that you look at generally specialize in one area. They're not really diversified athletes. Modern, events are coming out with triathlons and hyper athletes and all these athletes that are multifaceted and have a diverse range of talent and skill that they touch base on. And I think that's what we should all be leaning towards, because I think that's more also conducive of longevity. When you look at certain athletes in terms of, like, if you look at a sprinter, they have really well-defined shoulders, really well-defined legs, a great understanding of body mechanics along a certain plane. But then if you compare sprinters in terms of being able to run long distances, the body types are different in terms of the runners. So a sprinter body is going to look different than a long distance runner, and a yoga body is going to look different than a CrossFit body. And they all come with different expenses. If we keep looking down the ladder, a gymnast and a CrossFitter are more so a bridge of what we should be looking at. Actually, if you look at Chinese powerlifting is a great example of mobility, understanding, and applying power. The only thing that they probably lack in is their endurance. So when you approach this from a parkour aspect, or just the understanding of a diversified athlete, you kind of look at things in terms of their pros and cons. You see endurance, you see power output, you see all these different things, which then leads me to my next aspect. Why do you train? Why are you doing this? Are you trying to win a competition? Are you trying to see how much power you can develop in yourself in terms of lifting weight? Are you trying to see how far you could jump? Do you just want to experience your greatness and discover yourself and see kind of what you can do in all aspects? Then you're gonna have to understand how to develop these things within yourself. So having different goals develops your interests. And when you get into these different interests and these different goals, you start developing the right paths to manifesting those things. Most people just do the activity. In terms of parkour, people will start doing the activity, learning the fundamental rules and regulations of the activity. In terms of parkour and most disciplines, we're gonna stick with this 90-degree rule of body mechanics, where your legs make 90 degrees, your arms make 90 degrees, and most of your hinging points are making 90-degree angles, even around your ankles. That is good for a general athlete or beginner athlete. When you start advancing, you're gonna push that 90-degree limit a lot more, because you're gonna start utilizing more mobility and range of motion, because your tendons are gonna be allowed to adapt. Generally, your body needs about 7 years for your tendons, your tendon elasticity, your muscle density, your bone density, and all these things, and your endurance of them, to be able to facilitate the amount of pressure placed upon it for plyometric style of jumps. And a lot of people, they don't develop the right posture of form whenever they're moving. Many people don't consider this, but many of the movements, say for instance like a squat, is very conscious movement. When you're doing the squat, you're very conscientious, I hope you are, of the movement, because you could concentrate because your body's staying still. When you're doing movements, you can't really concentrate on your posture as much. So generally you move to this unconscious behavior where your imbalances of your muscle structure or your lack of awareness within your body is going to show. So a lot of that will manifest in terms of landings when people do butt winks.
Butt wink is an excessive pelvic movement that takes place at the bottom of a deep squat. So as you go into a deep squat, basically the pelvis goes from a neutral position to a posterior pelvic tilt. And this excessive movement is called butt wink. Now, why is this such a problem? Well, if we have a loaded barbell on our back and this movement at our pelvis is excessive, it can lead to a lot of pressure on your low back, which theoretically over time could lead to an injury like a bulging disc. So
whenever their toes point too much out, or if they point too much in, their knees are tracking out when their toes are tracking in, like bad knee tracking, butt winking, all these things are indicative of mobility issues. And usually we don't address that because we're just pushing in the activity. when you start getting to, I guess, your full range of potential, let's say that, your functionality, you start having to understand that you're gonna have to open up your ranges of mobility and usable functionality. So when you start opening up these aspects, how do you go about these things? You're gonna have to understand about the human body a lot deeper. You're gonna have to invest your knowledge. So what you're doing and the origin of what you're doing is very, very, very important. And we're gonna keep touching base onto this and along this with the who, what, why, where, and how. So who are you? Why are you training? What's your goals? My goal in part is I really want to be extremely functional, and I want to be extremely powerful, but I don't want to always be utilizing my power within 100% cycle rate. I want to drop my cycle rate to an average of 60 to 70% of my power output, but still be able to do most of the things I want to do through my functional range of motion. Okay, so I never understood any of this stuff when I first got into it. I was just blind with youngness and just wanting to just jump in and just do what I wanted to do, what I felt like I could do. And I was doing all this stuff. And then after certain injuries, I dislocated my ankle. I hurt one of my ligaments in terms of my right knee. And I pulled my groin on an MTV show. Along with all these injuries and injuring my neck, I started understanding that I really need to take care of my body. And not only do I got to take care of my body, but I got to prepare my body for the unexpected. So when you prepare your body from the unexpected, you also have to prepare your mind for the unexpected. And most people don't have an understanding of mental preparedness, or even understand that it's a thing. Because when you find yourself pushing to a high pinnacle of potential, you're gonna have to have a certain sense of grit and mental toughness to keep going when you're failing and when you're coming up short. Failure is not really failure when it's only leading to your growth, but it's a perceived failure when you're going through it. Okay, so goals will determine your interests. What's your interest? How are you applying those goals? And what are you doing about it? Are you educating yourself on what to do about the human body, how the human body functions, muscle structure, the nervous system, the CNS? Do you know about kinetic and potential energy, how muscles are more so potential, how your nervous system is more so kinetic? If you don't know these things, you're not going to be training in the right facets to utilize these things. To break it down to people that don't understand this, I talk about contact patch duration. It sounds really, really fancy, and it's not really meant to be that fancy, but just jumping into it, if you use contact patch duration with muscle confusion therapy, I think you can develop one of the best bodies, I think, that is usable in all disciplines. So contact patch duration has to do with the fact of how long your contact is on the ground. Okay, so say for instance, a sprinter, a contact patch of a sprinter is going to be around, I don't know, 1 second. We're just going to imagine this. This is not real numbers. This is a hypothetical guess. I will put the real numbers right here now that I said that, because now I'm going to have to correct myself. But anyways, we're going to say it's around 1 second. Okay, the sprinter activates his ligaments and his body within 1 second duration. Okay, a squat or a power lifter activates their ligaments within a 4 second duration. It takes them 4 seconds to utilize their muscles throughout that range of motion. Okay, when you look at somebody like George Piquet, he doesn't train weights, he only trains movement. He's so powerful. How can somebody that powerful, that doesn't train weights, still have that kind of build and that power? It's because he's utilizing his leverages through the functional ranges of motion, and he increases the difficulty, which then increases the perceived load on the body. Okay, and he's activating himself within that contact patch duration. That is his activity. So it's so usable, so translatable, and it's great. However, there are certain activities that can't target certain ligaments within our body that require a certain specialization, and that's where weights do come in handy. But again, everybody has their way up the mountain. I'm not saying this is the right way or wrong way. I'm just trying to say this is the way that I feel is best to approach it for myself, and what will work for me and what has worked for me in terms of my rehabilitation and my further development. So going back into this, contact patch duration is a very important factor that we must take into account. If you do weights and you want to train within the contact patch duration, I support muscle confusion therapy. And what muscle confusion therapy pretty much is you don't have a set way of approaching. Okay, a powerlifter, when they train, I keep using powerlifter, but I have been looking to them lately. I'll put some Chinese powerlifters here. Incredible form, incredible hip mobility, and I'm striving to keep this alignment in terms of my posture so I can utilize my full functioning glutes, hamstrings, and all the necessary balancing structures within my ankle. So if you look at these people, again, they're in the 4-second contact pass duration. How can we translate that to a usable parkour sense or a free form of movement sense?
Athletes need deliberate practice. Essentially, this is focused and conscious effort just outside the comfort zone with specific and attainable goals.
My goal right now is I want to be able to deadlift, squat 315, and then immediately be able to run a 400 meter in less than 60 seconds. This is a goal that I'm working up to. I don't know what I'm at right now, but I'm working up to that. I just started my power phase after my mobility phase and understanding how to balance myself out, but hopefully we will get there. Somebody that is really important in the community that I really want to give a shout out to is the Russian Frog. I feel like this individual is rediscovering a lot of attributes about approaching the human body and how to develop further athletes, like breaking plateaus and getting farther than what we've understood to be possible. So I really suggest you guys check him out because he talks heavily about ankle mobility, increasing in ankle mobility, understanding the ideas of proprioception, knowing your body in space without having to look at it, without looking in a mirror, but still feeling it out, things like that. If you want any suggestions, I suggest you support your community. Seek people like the Russian Frog. I'll put his stuff here. Ask him for help. I mean, he's only one man, so if he starts getting flooded, there's other people like Mish. Mish is great. John Reynolds is another, Baby John from Colorado. Ryan Ford, Max Henry, Caleb Iliano from Rilla Hops. There's so many people in our community that we should be looking to that are great examples for developing power. Chris Scott is another one from UK. All these people are really good examples of how to develop the body. And I think we should be looking to our community and supporting our community to gain further insight, you know, in terms of development and developing our own culture and supporting our culture. I want to go into workouts that I find very effective in terms of body development and how to approach all this stuff. First is going to be the activity-based thing. It's going to be body weight, learning how to function your own body weight. You need to understand how to utilize your own body dynamics and body mechanics before you start loading on any additional weight. So I think going through the activity and making sure your posture is really, really good, like going through certain aspects again, knee tracking the toes. Toes should be, or knees should be centered over the ball of the foot. If they go slightly forward, that's okay as long as the butt is out and there's no butt winking within the lower back, putting strain on your lower back. So the posterior chain should be straight as well. As long as all these things are hitting the right metrics, I think everything should be focused on body weight. As we continue to develop our strength within our natural body weight, we should start adding a little bit of weight in order to get a different change of perceived load. You can do that also with body weight by adding different heights, depth drops, rebounds. I'll add a bunch of plyometric style workouts that I do utilize, but I incorporate the plyometric style workouts with the loading based workouts. I try to take the best of the both worlds in order for me to really develop my body in a holistic manner, to develop a good homeostasis. The only thing that I find interesting about working out is it's more isolation based, where the activity in terms of parkour is a really balanced way of approaching the body. Say for instance, when you do a jump, you're activating your glutes, your hamstrings, your back, your shoulders. A lot of the whole body's incorporated into these movements for a simple jump. And then when you're jumping, that's the protagonist of it. The antagonist aspect, I'm just gonna put it in this, is the landing. When you land, you're gonna have to utilize your front of your calf to lift your toes up. You're gonna have to utilize your quads. You're gonna have to activate your glutes again, and your abs in order to pull your knees up and in. So you utilize the whole body in terms of a balanced manner, what you give and what you have to take out of that landing. If your form is proper, you will develop the body very, 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 very balanced if you're working both sides as well, which is another important aspect. However, within movement and activity, people develop imbalances because they have side preference. They say, okay, I'm stronger on my right leg, I'm weaker on my left leg. So they stick to only jumping off their right, they stick to only landing on their rights, or vice versa, whatever the case might be. One arm might be stronger than the other. It develops imbalances within the body. So that's where working out does come in handy to readdress that. If you have perfect form, you don't need any of that. If you're very conscientious of your body and your proprioception, and you have a very balanced approach towards movement, you don't need weights at all. Gymnasts don't really do weights at all. They do body weight everything, and they are phenomenal athletes. Okay, so jumping back into this, are you aware of your imbalances, your weaknesses that you've developed not only from your posture in society, but also from your activity that you do? If you're not aware of these things, they're gonna come back to haunt you, especially in terms of longevity. That's what happened with me. I was so right side based that my right side just couldn't take it in the long run from all that tension and power that, something had to give. Okay, whatever I wasn't training at that point, it was my groin. My groin wasn't that strong, and my abductors and adductors weren't the best. So they gave, and then after that gave, then my ankle gave. And then, okay, so I started realizing if I don't address these weaknesses, how can I keep approaching movement and life from a longevity standpoint?
I broke my back, spinal.
Well, that's gonna come with some accessory drills and some much needed stretching and things that we are overlooking in terms of working out and developing the human body, running being one of them. People don't run. How do we do parkour, which is a running activity, but we treat it like sprinting? We're active maybe 30 seconds max out of the time, unless you're Joey Adrian. If you're Joey Adrian, then you're probably killing it for like a minute, 2 minutes straight, which is amazing. And then that's great cardio. Cardio power endurance, because he's also power, so it's cardio power. But training like that will develop you like that. I believe also in training within a lower cycle rate. Don't always go ham. Don't always go 100% with yourself. Slow and steady wins the race. I think that's a quote. And what that essentially means is you can go at such a consistent, steady pace, but it doesn't have to be the most velocity. You don't have to peak fast, because then you'll drop off the cliff just as fast. So what I believe is maintaining a steady growth in terms of approaching the human body from an aspect that allows it to adapt to the task at hand. So mobility being the issue in terms of me, my hips, I had to open up my hips. I had anterior pelvic tilt. I used to do powerlifting when I was in high school and bodybuilding. I got to the point where I was squatting like 430, but my form wasn't the best. I wasn't going fully depth in my squats. Maybe I was going parallel, but I wasn't going deeper than that. I wasn't doing things to really utilize the function of my body. So I developed imbalances because of that. Now addressing those things, it lets you have to see what you need to focus on, which takes time, okay? This is essentially what I'm getting at. When you invest in your time like this, it's gonna take a lot longer for you to develop, unfortunately. But if you invest in your time like this, you're gonna be able to function throughout a fuller range of motion, be able to do more at a less cycle rate. So less cycle rate, meaning 60% of your effort will be able to be 100% of somebody else's, or maybe 100% of your old form. So going through this again, how should you approach this? Do the activity at hand, get the right function and form of posture, start applying difficulty in terms of elevated distances, depth drops, plyometrics ups, whatever the case might be, more advanced plyometrics, learning more about mobility within advanced forms of plyometrics, then start packing on the load. So muscle confusion therapy with contact patch duration. Make sure that those things, your contact patch duration is matching the activity at hand. Okay, it will help to make a more translatable body and not look so foreign in terms of your movement. So if you take like a bodybuilder and you have them do like parkour, they look foreign. They look out of their element.
Stop it. Get some help.
If you take a CrossFitter, generally, and you have them do like a pull-up or a muscle-up, they're out of form. They look weird if you make them do it strict. So all these things start falling into why you do what you do and the advantages or like pros and cons of them. Once you go through this and you take time, around 7 years, your articular cartilage and your bone density and your blood flow, your vascularity, your CNS, your central nervous system is priming, your proprioception is within a unison of itself, and you have a good homeostasis, you could start applying more pressures, more loads, more cycle rates without getting fatigued in any one areas. Okay, so what are some overlooked aspects that I feel like I want to readdress? I kind of readdressed them earlier, but I wanted to run them along a bullet point kind of list so we could have a good understanding. Cardio, grip strength, core work, mobility, and I think that is it. Yeah, and accessory drills. Accessory drills mean stretching. That kind of goes along with mobility. I think all these are very, very fundamental to making sure our body's prepped, ready, and able. It also gives us a level of confidence that if we do a flip or if we come up short on a jump, our body's going to be able to adapt towards compensating for our errors, our miscalculations. And this is another important preventive injury that we don't take into account. Is the more activities we do, the more we develop our mobility and ranges of motion, the more we develop our core, the more we develop our posture, in terms of unconscious everyday movement, the more we are going to be better suited for random occurrences in our day, tripping up, coming up short, over jumping, overstressing the body. The body will be better suited to relay messages back to you, to tell you to relax, or to tell you you can do this and give you the confidence. After talking about all of this body development, we have to talk about stretching and rest. And most importantly, rest. Knowing how to just chill. Knowing how not to always push in a competitive world where, you know, making commerce out of everything, it's kind of being the fastest to get there, the fastest to do this, the fastest to be something. That's kind of idolized, unfortunately. But the fastest isn't the longest. We can go much farther together than we can go alone. And this is why I'm trying to bring all these elements into understanding so we can go much farther together, and I don't have to see anybody getting hurt in the long run. At the same time, I just don't want everybody to get a misunderstanding of how to approach things. So what are some more preventative maintenance aspects that we can do to incorporate into our training that don't have to do with really body movement, but it has to do with body prepping? And I would say like foam rolling, rice buckets, rice bucket methods, being able to stick your hand in rice buckets, turn your wrist around. Movement training, a guy that I grew up with training, an amazing individual, he talks a lot about this, getting a bucket of rice and also getting a big enough bucket to where you can fit your feet into it, to where you can roll your ankles as well. He gives a lot of really good tips. Check him out about body development. He has really good insight. Okay, so we said foam rolling, rice bucket, elastic bands are very, very good to realigning the body. Sometimes if you have injuries, taping your body properly to help the alignment of the structure, that also helps to keep alignment if you know what you're doing. If not, watch a YouTube video. At this time, I want to take some time to shout out some people that have really helped me, and I think that they can help you. They also, if you're looking and you only want to hear people that have degrees or have the expertise, these are the people that you're going to want to listen to. If you don't really care about that stuff and you want all that stuff in one place, you came to the right place. You already came here. But if you only want to listen to those people, check out Squat University. He's a great person that talks about the tripod foot, understanding the placement of your foot, ankle mobility, and having a good squat. There's another person called Functional Patterns with Nadia Aguilera. He's a very well versed individual, very intelligent. He gives seminars, I think, in California. There's another individual, Perry Ellis Elite Performance. He's another amazing individual that sells cool bands for your knees for sprinting and stuff like that. He has also great plyometric advanced drills where you don't really need weight. There's also Overtime Athletes. He's somebody in Florida as well. He gives a lot of free content on YouTube as well. I'll put their links right here. Let me know in the comments and put your location in and who is really within a good expertise that can help people. And it's really about community and not just trying to make a dollar. Because, I mean, we do have to financially support each other, but at the same time, it's not about the commerce, it's about the communion and community. As long as we kind of focus on that, that's like my biggest importance. Not that it matters, but it matters to me. Being able to do HIIT trainings, high intensity interval training, is also a very good method. It kind of goes with muscle confusion therapy, doing things back to back, supersetting things, doing squats and then doing like leg lifts. If you do push-ups, do rows. If you do sit-ups, you could do back lifts, or Supermans on the floor. All these aspects of supersetting and HIIT training, going for a run and then going to work out, all that's going to develop your cardiovascular system in such an advanced way where your body's going to be prepped mentally, physically for anything, because you need so much mental strength to push through HIIT training and to push through just running. So when you start increasing distances, increasing your pace, increasing your muscle power, endurance, like the amount of strength you can output for a certain amount of endurance, when you increase that, you need mental strength. And that's interesting in terms of parkour, because many people don't talk about mental strength. And I usually talk to athletes about 3 levels of athletes in terms of parkour. You have your first level athlete that learns everything ground level in a safe environment, usually padded, and they have a comfortable way of approaching it. Once you have developed your movements and you develop a strong enough body within your form, you start taking your stuff outside. Then you can lead to your second athlete, which is they can maybe do a height drop. So whatever my body can take in terms of a height drop or error, if I'm high up, I'll calculate that risk and I'll take that risk. That's your second mental, I think, barrier in terms of self-awareness and self-development, self-understanding. At that level, some people can even go 3 stories and they'll say, you know what, they might be courageous enough to say, if I break something, I'm okay. I don't expect that that's gonna happen, but I'll take that chance because I don't think I'll die from these circumstances. So everything's kind of be calculated and measured in terms of death. Then you have these athletes that are kind of almost walking in tandem with death. It's not that they're inviting death, but they have such a high degree of awareness of themselves and what they can do and what they can do in terms of getting themselves out of bad situations, that they can approach things from any height. They can go 5 stories plus and still activate themselves in the right manner. Where other people, their central nervous system, their fight or flight thing says, heck no, get out of here. I won't even dare step on that ledge. That's mental preparedness, mental strength that a lot of people do not talk about. But these activities of working out and activity itself in your goals of interest will develop your mental preparedness and how you're able to deal with fear and these situations of death. Because death is the greatest unknown, that's why it has the greatest fear marker on it, and that's just one of the things that kind of makes it very taboo for us and keeps people in a certain level of tears within how they approach fear. So understanding this as, I think, the final understanding in terms of body development, once you really understand this, you can start cultivating a certain approach that is more holistic in terms of your mental, physical, and emotional understanding. And then you can really develop the athlete that you want to be based upon your true goals and your true interests, and you can see how it relates to your body. Okay, so I hope you liked the episode. This is pretty much going to conclude it. If you liked it, please give a like, subscribe, give some comments. The feedback is very much appreciated. I definitely want the community to be involved and to talk in the comments. If you have some people that you want me to shout out, please put them here. Here's my list of favorite comments from the last episode that I really do appreciate you people that did comment and are showing support. Thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated, and I hope to keep this up to help the community in terms of information, understanding, and movement. The next episode is going to be about nutrition. I was going to make a part 2 of this episode, but I decided to change it. Nutrition is such an important factor in terms of body development. I didn't really want to bring it up in terms of that because it would have made the episode entirely too long, so I'm going to split it up into the 3rd episode. It's going to be very fundamental. There's so many aspects that many people don't understand in terms of vitamins, minerals, the fact that 95% of your body's interactions and workings operate off 5% of the mineral content that we intake. That's not even getting into protein and synthesis and all that stuff of it. But I really want to dive into the nutrition and kind of brush on diet, because diet isn't as important as the nutrients that you're feeding your body and understanding what these nutrients do. Okay, so if you really are interested in that, go check out my 3rd episode. It's going to be coming out shortly after this one. It's going to include some amazing resources like Dr. Goldhammer, and many other people that are PhDs, MDs, DDDD, blah, 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 all the paperwork to validate their existence and their knowledge of expertise. But yeah, so we're going to be talking deeply about those things and diving into what you can do about your own approach to nutrition, how you're going to feed your own body. So yeah, see you next time. Peace.